for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to welcome those in attendance, and if we have roll call, please.
Linda Bailey?
Here.
Pam Grainer?
Here.
Brenda Cagle? Here. Rebecca Kern here. Valerie Reagan? Here. Judy Strong?
Present.
Julie Troop? Absent.
All right, we'll turn the discussion items over to you, Mr. Aldridge.
Okay, I would like to, start out with a informational item that's not necessarily on our agenda, but you have in front of you a flyer of sorts that talks about the October School Improvement Day. And this is our agenda. We have our Friday early dismissal. So we're coming together as a staff and do some celebration and talk about our purpose and our expectations and celebrate the fact that we have met our AYP goal and that we need to move forward and keep going. But it's always very important to, pat yourself on the back when you've done something well. So, and then in the afternoon, everyone moves on and they go to their training, in-service activities at the buildings. The principals have those set up, and then the support staff are getting their required mandated training from our computer system to be trained all together in one spot and to get the majority of it done. And we don't have that hanging out there because it's been it was an issue with the compliance visit that we didn't have. It wasn't that people weren't trained, it's that there was no documentation of the training, people completing it, and then they didn't print out the certificate that said they did complete it, and those kind of things. So because of the technical issues, I just decided let's just do it all together at one spot, all the support staff, and they have taken care of that. So they're going to use a computer lab. Everybody can get most of it done, and we'll have our documentation and evidence of training. So that's a good thing. Then the other is when I don't have the handout. But we received this one at the division dinner. This is the Common Core State Standards Forum with Susie Morrison from the State Board of Education. I sent that as a link. I sent it on to everybody, so you'll have it on an email. And I have also put this on our website under the announcements. I didn't do that. I had Ms. Callahan do that for me. So it is on our website just to give parents in the community notice of things that they can, they can access as well. And since this is a venue that's to help address public misconceptions of the Common Core state standards, I thought it was important for, at least to put it out there for the public to access. They could get to it. And, we can't make people go to it, but we give them notice. What's that?
So did you know there was an app for that?
An app for that? for putting it out there? Or?
Comment for the Common Core.
Oh!
I actually downloaded an app.
Did you? All right. From the State Board of Education?
Something that was online. It said Common Core. And it was,
there you go. You have to be careful because there's national standard and then there's Illinois. So make sure you're tuned into Illinois. So. All right. I guess we're here tonight to go over the latest round of press policy revisions. New policies coming out, new changes all the time, new things happening in the world of school board policy. So this is our committee of the whole meeting for discussion. So what I am anticipating here is for us to have discussion, and if there are tremendous amounts of things that need to be changed or everything, I would like it if people would do like we did last time and send those changes to me so that we can have them for the board meeting and the first reading, and we can, kind of go from there at that point. So let's dive right in. The first policy that press has given to us is number 2:105 in the school board section that talks about ethics and gift band act. The changes from the press policy are basically to the footnotes, some grammatical changes, and they add 2 new prohibited sources that boards cannot accept gifts from. As you know, the political activities are restricted for members of public bodies. We cannot accept gifts. We cannot, do political campaigning. That's the ethics. The gift part is we can't accept certain gifts from prohibited sources, and mostly those are people who do business with the public body. So we can't take kickbacks from the, I don't know, Mr. Allred, who did our floor, okay? So, we can't accept any kind of gifts from someone who is a contractor or has done business with the school district. So, there are changes here to include registered lobbyists, those individuals who are registered lobbyists with the state of Illinois or serve on the board of directors of those type of entities. And also, if someone is an agent of a spouse of or an immediate family member living with a prohibited source. I assume that there were some kind of issues that this needed to become a portion of the new, of this policy. Somebody got, a kickback or something from somebody's wife trying to get around the rules. So that's the, something happened to add these 2 specific entities as public, prohibited sources for public bodies. So, the rest of it seemed to be pretty clear cut, just grammatical errors or grammatical changes and the like. So, it's just my recommendation that we accept the changes in adding those 2 prohibited sources. Any comments, I guess?
Our last adopted one was October 2008.
Okay.
I do have a copy if anybody wants to look at that. So it's been many years, I'm sure, lots of.
What's this?
Is there anything that protects the students, like from someone asking the students to go into classrooms and having them campaign? Is it covered under here?
Employees aren't supposed to get involved.
Well, it's not the employees getting
Oh,
involved,
just
the
the kids.
students itself going and saying, hey, campaign this week, or,
Nope.
so the students are allowed to do that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and we did talk about our policy that talked about political materials coming into the classroom, if it's used in the curriculum, used for, demonstration purposes and things like that. It is allowed, but otherwise no. So if students are just talking about these things or making political speeches at lunchtime, that's First Amendment, yeah.
Well, I just meant that students asking other students, going into their classroom saying, hey, we're campaigning this weekend, you want to come and join us, making announcements.
Not anything that we can control.
But it should disrupt classroom time. It should be on their own free time, not the student's time, not the other.
That's what I hope that the teachers and administration are doing, yeah. So, is it a problem? Has it been a problem?
I think it's been a problem in the past.
Last year,
That's right.
but that's okay.
Oh,
Hopefully the teachers and
the employees would take care of it though, but I don't think there's anything.
It was
No, when it comes to, yeah, when it comes to kids, especially when you're talking referendums and things like that, kids
Right.
do get a little involved, but, you know, that we can't control them in that kind of a situation, other than, like you said, if it's a disruption. So,
I'm good with the 2 additions.
good. All right, number 2:120, school board. Board member development takes out the redundant implementing dates, because it talks about the para implementation and performance evaluations and the when school board members have to have their training for the Open Meetings Act, for the FOIA, for the Performance Evaluation Reform Act training. They moved it around a little bit to make it a little more cleaner, but really, when it comes right down to it, the dates are irrelevant because they're statutory anyway. That's why my recommendation was to accept all the changes except that last sentence on page 2 of 3. That's the paragraph number 3. It's on the second page. It's really unnecessary. I mean, we can only use the new dismissal process once we are para implementation date.
We're confused.
Okay.
Page 2.
All right, page 1 of 3 is paragraph number 3 at the bottom, and it carries over to over to page 2. Those those top 2 lines there. The last one is underlined. This dismissal process is available after the district's para implementation date. Well, yeah, because that's what the law says. So really, you know, we can accept everything, or, you know, I just think that that's an unnecessary language, but we can definitely just accept everything.
Our last one was December 2010, and it's quite different because of the mandatory board member. Before it was just not. Plus the attendance is not on this one. So because of what's mandatory now in training compared to just suggested,
Oh, okay.
So
So
it's much different.
our current policy, 2:120, is a little, well, it's a lot different than
yeah.
what is there.
Way
So
outdated.
it seems that it wasn't updated since the changes.
Yeah,
So-
January 2012, but
We have April 2012.
do you? It says January and then July 2013 updated on the top
Okay.
of our.
See, that's why I didn't even go back, because there is
All
nothing that
Yeah.
is exact
Different.
around here. So yours
Says October
is
2006.
Oh,
April 2012. So this one is the most current, and yours is
October of 2006.
October 2006. Do I hear November 2012? Do I hear November 2004? All right, I don't know, guys. I don't know what to tell you. I
Not your
can't
fault.
It
fix
didn't
that.
have any
this
para
stuff.
on yours, right? Because yours would have been the most updated. Did
It
you
has
have-
para.
It does
Yeah,
have para on it?
yeah, 'cause it was
Does it have
just-
attendance then too?
No.
Was that
No, it would not have the
removed?
attendance, they
Have that.
removed all of that, right. So,
But
April,
it had the number 3 in it.
yeah, it has number 3, but they've added a little
Sure.
bit of, you know, explanation in that little sentence there.
Right.
So, I guess it's my suggestion that we just accept this as the newest policy, and, you know,
Consensus?
whether you just keep it simple and accept everything.
Right.
Because really, my comment about removing that last sentence doesn't really matter. It's just fun, you know, just some, yeah, doesn't matter, so.
Are we all in agreement on this one then?
We don't have an online manual though.
We don't
It
have
says
what?
either or, doesn't it?
No. Oh, yeah, here.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Okay.
Okay, and it says that the superintendent shall maintain on the district's website all of our training and development. Is it on there? or-
Ba-ba-da, that's the next thing on
okay.
our list. Well, not on our list, but that Holly and didn't I send you an email today? I actually went and got all of your, I got all of it, I got it all. Well, I have everything that is in our folder. So we will get the certificates and we will get them online. And Holly and I talked about, some reconfiguring of the website so it's a little bit easier to find things and get those put up there. So, yep, that was
Has
already.
everybody turned in their para? All the mandatory?
I did it.
There's OMA for you,
I did OMA, I did FOIA.
the 4-line course, which included para, right?
There's 3.
Financial.
Yeah.
I had to go back and do para because I did mine before April.
Before they put it on.
Oh, okay.
So I just did my para 2
Too
weeks ago.
strong, para, too strong, para,
So we've
okay.
been
And
checking
then,
Julie then.
yeah, I need Miss Troop to give me her updated certificates.
Otherwise, we're
So,
all good.
seems to be. And I took that all as well on that Saturday, so. I didn't get a pen. You guys got
I
pens.
didn't get a pen
I didn't get a
either.
pen.
I didn't get a pen, I just
See?
went online.
I know, yeah. So,
We didn't pay big bucks, that's why we didn't get the pen. Cheaper.
We wouldn't know.
okay, so we'll accept this one and make a, and we'll get everybody's policies all wrapped up so that we are all firing on the same cylinders, and everybody's
Are
got
we
the same
leaving 3 in
stuff.
or taking it out? I don't care either way, I'm just asking.
It's the same.
The second set of 3 or the first set?
No, the paragraph. that
Paragraph
Aldrich
3,
suggested.
there's the last sentence up there at the top.
That's underlined.
Okay.
It's the one that's underlined it's just redundant of the statute. So it's not necessary in our policy. Because in 6 months after we are para implementation dates for everybody, they're gonna come back and revise it to take them all out. So, I don't know what to tell you. It's all semantics as far as this is concerned.
So would this keep us from having to look at it again if we took it out?
That's the hope.
Should we just take it out?
I'm fine with taking it off, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You guys okay with that?
All right, there we go.
Consensus.
I like it, thank you. All right, next one's 2:150, school boards again, is a section. The title is committees. There's changes to the footnotes. That's really all there is to it. There's no changes to the policy itself. All right, no action is necessary from the Board of Education. It was just for your informational purposes, I suppose.
Back up.
Mhm.
Compared to our policy, it's huge changes.
Huge change. What date do you have on yours? I've got October 2 or 3.
I do too.
Oh,
That's what
okay.
That is
I've got
probably
too.
the last one.
The board has been in violation of this policy for
Yeah.
years.
For some
Yes.
reason? Okay.
Oh, because we have,
Because they never
committees were done
redid
away
it to be a
with.
committee of the whole.
Mhm.
Right.
right.
Which is fine, because the school board may establish committees, and committee of the whole does do those things. Special board committees, standing board committees, superintendent committees, and it just all depends on what the classifications are as to the Open Meetings Act and what is required for posting and notices and meeting minutes. That's where this is, that's what this policy was heading toward, was the committees, if they are board committees, had to be functioning under the Open Meetings Act. And there was confusion about that for a long time. The new Open Meetings Act legislation a couple years ago took care of that and made it pretty specific. Unless they were legislative or superintendent committees, those committees need to be functioning under the Open Meetings Act. So,
And even complying with this old one, the school board creates as the board deems necessary, and the board president makes all board committee appointments. So I believe it was in compliance.
The section about the standing board committees, I mean, I haven't seen any building and ground meetings
Standing
Curriculum
board
meetings.
committee?
Yeah, the third.
The ones that are
third
in here,
section got
all
all
those
standing
numbers.
committees.
All
I
those
mean,
numbers.
I haven't seen those be in action now for a while.
They decided to go to a committee of the whole for
But
whatever
we
reason.
have addressed these in the committee of the whole, so we talk about those different. We could probably go back to our agendas and see building and grounds, finance, policy,
Yeah,
Right.
you probably touched on some of them.
yeah, yeah. But boy, we're ready for a new one. Consensus,
Very good.
Yes.
addition.
Okay,
or-
so instead, on my summary, where I put no action necessary,
Yeah.
we will put accept changes. So that it will be the.
So we're doing away with the committees. No.
I don't know, that's what we need to discuss. What standing committees are there? All of these combined into the committee of the whole?
Right, at this
Okay.
time. And what's this new one say then?
Well, it has a
A
place.
special committee may be created for specific purposes and to investigate special issues. Like with the new, with the committee that Brenda gave, Mrs. Keiko gave a report on the insurance. So it looks like that's the way, to me, that's the way this new one is reading. Anybody?
Well, it says standing committees on page 2 of
Okay.
3 at the top, but it's
Look at
taken it
that.
down to 3 committees. You
Mhm.
have only policy, the parent-teacher advisory committee, and behavioral interventions committee.
Oh, so they really took them
So-
down.
Mhm.
But it's your choice.
Right.
Us as a board can decide what we want on it as a standing committee.
These are the ones that are best practices. That's what the association gives you, is standards and guidance for best practices as a Board of Education. So, it is,
So that's almost the committee of the whole, number one, it looks like.
right, but you can see there, footnote 8, Board Policy Committee, footnote 8, a Board Policy Committee is optional. The creation is consistent with policy 2240, Board Policy Development. So as issues come up, then they are brought to the committee as a whole, giving the entire board access to information and gives everyone, at least in my opinion, gives everyone the same opportunities for discussion and questions. So to have I don't know, what were the other ones? To have a
Curriculum, extracurricular.
extracurricular, a food service, a technology, a transportation.
Well, like extracurricular is something probably that needs to be discussed as well, because parents were telling me that the price went down at the door.
But to have a committee meeting like that on a monthly basis seems kind of unnecessary as things come up. And if they are issues,
Right.
then they need to be brought up so that those can be topics for discussion at the
For
committee
the
of the whole.
agenda.
Okay, can we put this list on the committee of the whole agenda and touch if there is a problem in each one? That would give us an opportunity to discuss things like that come up.
You bring, like that would be brought to either myself or to Mr. Aldrich, am I correct?
Right,
Past
as the
practice
agenda.
has been like that?
Right.
So it's covered, right? What you just asked for is already covered. You
Unless
bring
it doesn't
to
get put
the
on the agenda.
attention. If
Well,
it,
or let's just say you found out about it today, then there's not time to get it on the
Right.
agenda. If
Right.
you leave the standing committees on there, then it leaves it open for,
Discussion.
right.
Okay, let me
There is
see.
anything.
If you have a committee of the whole meeting, then you have all or some of these listed.
right. Well, not necessarily listed every time, but when they come up for discussion, it's gonna go on there. If you look at some of our past ones, with Mr. Aldrich, he does, make that agenda with the issue that's gonna be discussed.
But you're making policy. 5 years from now, he may not be here, so you've got to try to cover it with any superintendent sitting there.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
No,
But the
I-
last paragraph then also says,
Okay.
nothing in this policy limits the authority of the superintendent or designee to create and use
Oh,
committees.
no,
that-
those are for superintendents,
Committees.
committees, that
Right.
come back to me, report back to me,
Right.
yeah.
Well,
So like I have a committee that we've established to study the bring your own technology, all right? Because that was a policy last time that we just weren't comfortable with. So I recommended that we study that. I have 5 staff members who have volunteered to be on that committee to research and bring that to the Board of Education. And that's a topic that would be, brought to the committee as a whole for discussion. So I guess if there are, having each and every one of those topics listed every single time, I think is going to protract your meetings. Because everybody, there's the potential for, discussion of each and every single item that anybody wants to talk about that's within those. If that's what you want to do, you know what? You as a board decide that, all right? You as a board can decide that. But after about 3 hours, I'm done. I can't take it, My brain doesn't function after that. So trying to keep, some kind of reasonableness to the meetings. If you have all of those listed on there, the potential is there. If you don't have them listed on there, you can't talk about them. It's a balancing act. So, it's what the board has to decide how it wants to govern. So, I guess the easiest thing to do is to, you need to adopt the new language here from the old policy, all right? And then, I suppose, the easiest thing to do would be to talk about it, I suppose, it's either now or at the first reading, so.
Well, last time they didn't want us to talk about it at the first reading. It was mentioned, why didn't we talk about it at this meeting, so I think we
Okay.
can talk about it now.
That's fine. So, committees.
Okay, I have a question. If we do not have policy to do,
Mhm.
we're all caught up, then what are we going to be doing at the committee meeting?
In my thinking and what I am trying to envision is you need to talk about your facilities. You need to talk about, write them all down, I'm on camera.
That's building and
Jeez.
grounds,
Right.
we're just trying to think of committees that would cover, not.
Yeah, I'm not keeping track of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, whatever.
well, you're gonna if you're wanting one separate one for each of these, if we only have one in a month, it's gonna hit on those, and it won't be redundant at that time.
But we can't do policy just once a year.
Right. So I'm asking, if we don't have policy to do, what is our committee of the whole meetings going to encompass? That's what I'm
Covers
asking
all of
you.
these.
You
Not
want to leave
all of
those
them.
on?
Not
No,
all
I
of
don't
them.
want them left
That's
on
what
there,
I'm asking.
because that means that we have a committee for each of those.
No,
That means
necessarily.
that we discuss it as a committee of the whole.
Right.
If something were to come up, let's say on transportation, then it would be on there for us to discuss.
Right, and that has been done. So,
Mr. Aldridge, what else did you have besides building and grounds?
Oh, there is, each and every one of these things needs to be addressed at some particular time during the year. But you put it on there for every single month, and you leave this as a standing agenda. Like I said, it opens it up to discussion on every topic, not just the one, or the two, or the committee of the whole. The way I envision it is that you come in with things that you need to long-range plan, things that you need to think about and discuss. You need to think about your technology. You need to think about we have to have, start thinking about the curriculum and how we're going to use technology in the curriculum. Are we gonna buy textbooks? Are we gonna go to devices? There are all of those kind of issues. And as they come up sometimes, but that's why we create an agenda as we move along during the month as well. And I work with the board president to try to establish an agenda that gives the board the work that you need to be doing, from the balcony, I guess. I use that overly used phrase, but working on those type of things. So it's that long-range planning. What are you going to do with Homewood School? Okay, what are you going to do with the infrastructure of the electrical within LaSalle? What are you going to do with the Wi-Fi, the wireless networking that doesn't reach to the end of the building? What are we going to do with, how are we going to embrace the assessments that are coming up that we have to do that our technology does not support? It's all those kind of immediate things that I have in my mind right now that I need to bring to the board to get some direction and some, we need discussion on those kind of issues. So, if I bring, let's say, just out of discussion purposes, I need to bring, or I want to put on the agenda the electrical, running the electrical and how it's so substandard going down the kindergarten wing. And I have amassed all of this information, and we've got electrical engineers, and we've got the technology guys and all that kind of stuff. And I need to talk about that because you guys have to make decisions. If we get jammed up and we have all of these on here, and people want to start talking about extracurriculars because there's a coach that you don't like, we're not going to get to the good. We're not going to get to the good topics that we need to really be discussing.
Depends on the board. Whose opinion, though? I mean, that, like she's saying, the door receipts, if that's changed, that may be important to her,
Right.
Well, it
And
should be brought.
okay, what would you suggest then? What should she do with that information? How should she get that to the board? Because I don't know what.
Well, shouldn't it go to the
Yes.
president or to
Yes.
him in order
That's
to get
that's
back
the
to all of us?
right. That's the chain that you
If I want
guys
it on the
have.
agenda, I'm supposed to call the president and tell him I want it on the agenda. But in the past, I've been told I can't have it on the agenda because I didn't feel it was necessary. So that's what,
Well,
yes.
that
So
does.
that's what, so it's been blocked. So if there's nothing on there that says we're gonna discuss this because it's under there, if the board member wants something on, she might not be able to get it on. Although, according to board policy, you're supposed to be able to get whatever you want on the agenda if you're a board member. Within reason. You're not supposed to put, something
And that's
inappropriate on there.
what that was, within reason.
But then-
It was an owed object.
Okay, but then the overarching is that the board president and the superintendent work in collaboration to establish the agenda, taking into consideration all of the board members' discussion items or issues that they might want to have on the agenda. And there are times when the board president has that, what do I want to say, that discretion, that ability to set the agenda. That's why there is a president. And then if 3 board members want that specific issue to be put on the agenda, then that does go on the agenda. Okay?
Pardon?
Overrides it.
It overrides it, right. But any board member should be able to put what they want on the agenda, within reason.
But see, you talk to the board president,
Yes.
And
which I do
then,
not.
okay, and then it has to be, where does it fit into the agenda's purpose? And what is it, board work, or is it administrative work? And we talk about those things.
And it could be administrative work. I don't know
okay.
who sets the door policy. I mean, I don't know who sets the price for the doors. I
Well,
thought
used
the
to.
board did in the past, but it could have
Right.
changed.
The
We did.
The issue here is whether or not we're gonna put, you want to put standing committees with all of these 11 topics back into the policy. I say it's not necessary because you have to have some kind of, at some point you have to trust administration that's going to bring the topics and the issues to you that are most pressing on the school district. And, you know, having all of these, you know, I'll just say it again, opens each and every topic up for discussion every single month. And you're gonna get bogged down and not have productive board meetings.
Suggestion, while you were talking, I wrote down everything,
That I said?
no,
Oh.
no, everything that would fall into a category of a committee. I came up with building and grounds, curriculum, technology, and finance.
Okay.
Could it be standing committee of the whole, and then these be our four? And just, I mean, if you wanna talk for another half an hour, I can write some more down, but listening to you, everything that you said would probably be covered under one of these.
Yeah.
Even the door receipts is finance, and your technology, I mean, that could be finance or technology, but I think that's gonna be a key decision we're gonna have to make,
Well, it
so.
depends on where the board wants to be. Do you want to be, you know, do you want to be so far ingrained into the day-to-day workings of the school that it's micromanaging, or do you want to be, you know, working on the big issues of the school and the community? You know, those are the decisions that you know, I need direction from the board. You know, I can't come to you and say, I want to close Homewood School. You know, I wouldn't just do that. Okay? Well, but whether or not we raise the price of admission, you know, 15 cents or $2, really is that board, is that kind of minutia items really board work? I don't think that Dr. Langdon kind of steered us away from that.
No, we set that policy for the entrance and,
Policy?
well, it's not policy.
Right.
We set
Right,
the.
right. So if it's not policy.
Let me finish,
oh,
please. We set the price, and it was in policy that we set that price somewhere. I don't know where, because I don't have a policy book, but it used to be. So, the problem is with, it's not the admission into the game, it's just, it goes along with finance, because if we can't support our sports, you know, in the past, we've been threatened to be rid of sports. So, that's what I'm going at, I don't care whether it's $1 or $2, I'm more looking at, let's look at the price of how much sports is gonna cost us, how much we're bringing in, and see what's going on, not, you know, whether it's $1, $2. I mean, it might not make a difference at all. But that's what I'm looking at, the whole picture, the big picture, not just the door receipts. What is it costing us? You know, we talked about field trips. What is field trips costing us? Are we gonna get rid of field trips? I mean, that goes all in there.
And the chief executive, who is our superintendent, would like to be able to present the information to the board as he's told us, like on the technology. He's putting together his staff to give information and feeding him so that when he comes to us, we can make a
But if
better
it's not in
informed.
here in the committee or anywhere, then we never get it, is what I'm saying.
And that's the trust part, I suppose.
He's ultimately responsible to us through his contract. So if we see a shortage, then it is covered. Mrs. Reagan, everything is covered with our chief executive.
Right, for his responsibility, but I just meant that if it comes up and I wanna know, hey, what's it costing us? You know,
It takes
It's never
time.
in any place. Oh, well, that's not on the agenda.
No, but it does take time to get those things.
I didn't
You're
ask for it
integrated
today.
in that. This is the first anybody's ever heard, except you, bringing it to us tonight, that
I'm
this was
just,
done,
I use it for an
so.
example. I didn't ask for the information.
Right.
I'm using it as an example.
Can we, does it make sense then to put in, like Mrs. Bailey said, the building and grounds, the finance, and the technology as topics? Does that make sense?
Not at every meeting, no. Because if we had that on tonight's meeting, we've already been here an hour and 40 minutes and we've gone through 3 policies. Look at how many more we have. Now, after we got done doing that, if we then had to go through and discuss building and grounds, finance and all that, we would be here till midnight.
I guess the question is, what's the board responsible for?
I'm not,
Mrs. Strong, you told us
I'm
what.
not saying we're not responsible for it. I'm just saying I don't want it on every single committee of the whole meeting. I can't stay till midnight every night.
Okay, what do you wanna?
I'm not saying that we don't have to discuss it. I'm just saying it doesn't need to be on every single meeting that we have. It needs to just be there when we have it, and we
Obviously.
have discussed it. I mean, when we don't have policy,
The board,
but we can't even get through one single
What do you
policy
want the
without
poli-
getting off track.
What do you think the policy should say then?
I don't know how to do it because we can't get through this without getting.
Well, that's
Best
why
way.
I got
the
this.
associate,
I wasn't
The
talking
reason-
about Ulysses, I used it as an example.
right, right.
Field trip.
But the,
Oh,
but the,
All right, let's get back to what we're
Yeah.
doing.
I'm sorry, I can't.
you guys are members of the Illinois Association of School Boards.
Yes.
And so you're members for a reason, because they give you guidelines and suggestions
Best practice.
for the best practices of school board governing through policy. So the governing through policy and the committee that puts together these policy changes
Right.
have said that these are the best practices.
So
Right?
we should just take these
So-
as written?
No,
I
but.
don't know that we take them as, that implies blind following. What I'm saying is, these are the best practices, and if you've read through them and we agree that, these are the best practices, then, from the association, then you accept it.
But I
Okay.
believe we were told that we are supposed to change these to fit our district
Yep.
as needed.
Okay. And that's what the board has to decide, how it wants to govern.
And it's just that this advisory board, it's intense of who's on there. So when we see that we are in opposite areas,
So do we
they're
keep the policy
professional.
from October 2003?
No. Consensus going.
I don't know.
Mrs. Curran,
I say take the new one.
Mrs. Keiko,
I say take the new one.
Mrs. Griner.
I would take the new one with revisions to add at least the 4 committees that Mrs. Bailey brought up, because this board cannot be on a time limit. If you've got crucial matters of finance, building and grounds, whatever, you have to deal with it. You can't say it's 7 o'clock, we have to go. I'm saying put them on there if something needs to be discussed. It's not necessary that you would have to discuss it at every meeting.
Okay.
It's like a reminder.
Right. Well,
Kind of
I
what we've already
believe
been
that,
doing then.
yeah, I
Yes.
believe our superintendent has done a great job getting information to us, projecting what he's going to have to bring to us. So I believe that is that trust issue. Mrs.
If I'm
Griner,
not mistaken, all we've done at the committee of the whole meeting so far is policy, and I understand it's very time consuming, et cetera. But I haven't seen any of these other committee information be brought up here. I think we can make better use out of committee of the whole. And maybe that's once we get going. Like you said, if we want to deal with homewood or whatever.
Well, and input from everybody, one item's been brought to me as the president of what they'd like to see on so if you have things that you're feeling are stress, they need to be brought in, and Mr. Aldridge will do the research for us.
Okay,
I'm
could we
confident
get
of that.
something in here then, so that we could make you aware of something, other than having to email you or whatever? I'm gonna use your door receipts again now. Could we just have maybe like an information thing on the agenda where that
Future
would
board
say?
discussion,
Yeah, for discussion.
several.
Just,
what's
just
school
not
boards?
to, not to
And
deal with
school
the
boards do
issue,
that.
but to make you aware of the issue.
And so
Just-
that wouldn't have to go on this policy. You're just asking us, maybe kind of like what we have as public participation.
Right, how about board suggestions or board comments?
Well,
Not to deal with immediately, but to make you and Mr. Aldridge aware and deal with it maybe at a following meeting.
At the committee of the whole meeting is what you're saying.
couldn't they just be written and handed to us at those committees then? Because
Written
it
and
might,
handed, why not just say, this is some
And I-
issues, that way people
Time.
can
That
be
way you
aware
can
of it.
explain
you know,
it a little bit better.
you want to draw people that want to be on the board. And when you have long time board meetings, you're not gonna draw the individuals that are busy individuals that would volunteer to be a board member. As much as if you have these huge meetings lasting on, you know, that's just a consideration I think, you know, we need to be aware of.
And I thought I was
Things
doing,
can always be explained in email as well as I
The
can.
board
in
needs to
person.
discuss
No,
things.
But if you write it down and bring it, there's no discussion until there's been an investigation. It could have been, you know, so there's really should be no discussion at that time until an investigation has been acquired.
But he might not need to investigate, someone else might have the information, another board member. And you could discuss it right then and say,
He's
oh,
our-
this is what happened. Or,
He's
you
our
know, this-
superintendent, he should know it all. If something's happened and he doesn't know about it, then he's gonna have to investigate.
But it might have been from a year ago, and someone might say, oh, this is what happened, don't worry about it.
and it comes down to, you know, as I've received passing comments at board meetings asking for materials, I believe I've been doing a fairly decent job in providing those requested documents and information and, you know, all of that in a timely manner. It's not right away, and you can't expect next day service, okay? Because as it is, stepping and fetching for all of this stuff really is taking time away from the real things, being student-focused and results-driven. So, you know, that's where it comes to is, you know, what is the board, how does the board want to govern? And doing the day-to-day administrative detailing or governing as a policy-making body to allow the administration and the teachers and the support staff to follow through with those objectives that you've set. So, you know, that's what your consideration has to be. Now, I'll do it all you want, and I'll smile and keep things going, really. Because, you know, I come in here and I see these kids, and I see, you know, a lot of potential with a lot of these kids. And so that's what I'm hoping for, is to bring a little more success for those students. So, you know, the stuff on the back end, you know, you want all those committees, that's your decision, and that's your right to govern as the board. So, you know, that's where it is put, I suppose. How do you guys want to do it? And I'll do it. So what were the other committees that were developed, I suppose?
Ones I wrote down are the ones in the old E1.
All right.
She said building
All
and
11,
grounds,
all 11 of
finance,
them,
and
or,
technology.
okay.
I
But
have
if we
building
would,
and grounds, curriculum, technology, finance, and of course, policy. But If you would, it says standing board committees. This is what's in policy, this is what we're discussing, right?
Mhm.
Okay. And then it explains what a standing committee is created for. If you simply put committee of the whole, would that solve the problem?
Mhm.
You could also put consisting of, if you want to list all of those. And I agree, if there is nothing on building and grounds, don't put it on our agenda.
Right.
If there's not, but yet it covers it. If you
Okay.
list these 5 or 6, whatever I came up with, it doesn't mean you have to put it on there. If you
I
put
like that.
committee of the whole, that covers it all.
Does everybody else?
Hold it just
Where are you putting
confused.
standing on?
No, that's all right.
Number 1, where it says board policy committee.
Right.
I don't think unless we just want to do that. If we do, I'll come to the board meetings once a month to do policy and let me know when I come back. If you change that to committee of the whole, I'm just throwing it out there.
Right. Keep talking.
Okay.
Thank you.
Which would consist of topics, subjects, I don't care, whatever you want to do. Building and grounds, curriculum, technology, finance, policy. I covered everything that he talked about for a few minutes. Doesn't mean that it has to be on the agenda that time.
Are we all gonna remember that it doesn't have to be on the agenda, that it's things that we don't have to bring each month? It's things that we're going to allow him, since we've hired him with his expertise, to bring things also to us, and then if Mrs. Reiner has an issue, or Mrs. Kern has an issue, then we can bring it to the president, she can talk to him about it, and we can get on that committee meeting.
Okay, at the committee meeting, could you hand her a paper and say, next month I would like to discuss technology?
Because as we're moving forward, I think, unless I'm just totally off base, I think we are starting to understand each other a little better to where we can show unity and move forward to discuss the bigger items. And I think he's done a great job so far of telling us information to where we have that trust factor. I understand what Mrs. Griner saying about the next person that comes in, you know, and maybe then at that point, if, you know, he decides not to stay or whatever happens down in the future, then we change that and expand on that.
But
So far,
would that cover everything? I mean,
I believe
you're not
so.
comfortable? No.
We might as well leave it like it is, because that's what they suggested in the first place, is just bring them a piece of paper, so.
And then they'll put it on the agenda.
So how is changing that gonna be different?
Acknowledging that we are in a committee of the whole.
Yeah, just
Rather
put
than
committee of the
standing
whole
committees.
somewhere.
So where then does number 2 and number 3 come in?
That's his committees.
Mm-hmm.
Parent-teacher advisory committee, actually. That's a state mandated,
Yeah,
right?
that's that.
Yes.
Okay, so
building.
those
It has to be.
are with your staff.
That's that building.
Okay.
Behavioral intervention, that's,
Parent-teacher advisory committees, those are standing because they're created by legislature. They are statute board, right?
just tell me what we decided, just so I can, because I'm not sure what you
The
guys.
board committee of whole, the Board of Education committee of the whole. Instead of board policy committee, put board committee of whole. Because then that brings it to all of us.
But if you still wanted a special board meeting for, you know,
Yeah, you can
something.
Oh, yeah, special board
Yeah.
meeting, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Okay, so we don't want anything listed then as far as,
I guess not. But at least it doesn't say
Or-
board policy only.
Right.
true.
Okay, so what I can do is,
We need to do something with the sentence after that then.
right, that's what I was thinking, is let me revise, and send something, and we can move forward.
That the committee of the whole will deal with issues
Well, see, I think the
Such
committee of
as?
the whole, I'm not sure. It was never voted on to go to a committee of the whole. I was here through it all. Years before the board changed, you had these individual committees. When you become a committee of the whole, that means all 7 board members are covering all of these committees.
Right.
And that hasn't been done in the past. Maybe it wasn't necessary. You know, building and grounds, a transportation now and then, policy.
I honestly think that it would be helpful, to me anyway, to hear all of that instead of a special committee that would discuss that.
But we don't want to have it every week, is what she's saying, or every time we meet.
So you're gonna revise that?
So
and
yeah,
send it out
let
so we have
me draft something up, and I will send it to everyone. We can look at that, send in individual comments and suggestions, and then we'll have that ready for the first reading. How's that sound? And we will.
Responses back.
Yeah, you have to be careful of comments, make your comments individually, send them individually to me, not to everybody, so that we don't violate
Right.
our Open Meetings Act. And kind of like we did last time, where everybody sent in comments,
Right.
and then I sent out the summary again. Is that,
So when we reply
Yes,
all that
thank
means-
you.
yeah, don't reply all, yeah. Is it getting us to move forward?
Yes, would be.
Okay.
For everybody else.
Yeah.
See, policy notes, so that I know what to do. All right. Next is policy number 5:20, which is general personnel, workplace harassment. There are changes to the footnotes and legal references. I don't know what the old policy said, but I do know that I talked to Ms. Walton about changing the non-discrimination coordinators and the complaint managers to make sure that those are accurate people now, put in the right folks, so that we have that corrected. So,
Number 6. It's a little bit more involved, so.
yes, there's changes to the legal references and to the footnotes. This talks about employer liability under Title VII. There's a reference to the court case here, Supreme Court case, Crawford versus Nashville, Davidson County. And then changes to the legal references in the back, just adding those two references. So, other than changing it as it should be when the complaint managers change, there's really no change to the actual policy.
According to the footnotes, you should not put the name in. We currently have principal at LaSalle School, principal at Parkview School, now you don't have to change the policy every time.
Well, but if you look, to whom to contact with a report or complaint, we have to have an individual's name on there, because people have to know whom it is that they're supposed to contact.
Okay, is that
Title
under,
IX, Title IX regulations.
yeah, policy should not be adopted with the person's name in it, rather the identifying information. That's what it says in the footnote.
On number 6.
The superintendent shall insert into this policy the names, addresses, and telephone numbers of the district's current non-compliant, non-discrimination coordinator, compliance managers.
Put that down for what? But on Title IX, then says don't, so.
Yeah.
Number 6, Title IX, regulations require districts to identify the names and policy should not be adopted with a person's name in it. Rather, the identifying information can be added and amended as necessary. So, I guess what they're saying is that you don't necessarily have to have it in the actual policy itself. You have it as an addendum? I don't know. Every school that I've ever seen has had this little box here and they've got it on the back of this one.
So we're supposed to adopt the policy regardless of whose name is in it, but we're required to provide the names to our employees.
Right.
Is that how I'm understanding it?
Right,
Okay.
because then you don't have to come back year to year to year, bringing this every single year to change. Or if somebody leaves mid-year, you gotta change your policy. So, however you would like to do that, I'm good with it the way it is.
I guess if they want to call Brad Bennett.
We'd appreciate that one, don't they?
I'm good for adopting the new one.
Yeah,
Thank
me
you,
too.
Mrs. Bailey. Anybody know? Okay.
So, no action necessary. Okay.
Well, we have to accept it.
Adopt new.
With
We have to
the,
accept the new one.
Right, but we
Okay.
don't have to change anything. And then,
But it says no action necessary.
Right.
Yes, we're gonna accept it. Accept it because it's much different than ours.
No action to me means keep the old.
The old,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
Me too.
Okay,
I
so,
thought no action meant
we
we
do
didn't need
have
to
to-
change this.
right, that was
Okay.
my intention, but I understand.
See, that shows we
Okay.
understand things completely different.
So, no action to the new policy. All right, so
wait a minute.
adopt
New policy.
this policy right here.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we said yes, it does.
Okay.
The policy committee's
Adopt.
open up.
Except the old one.
Let's do this for that violation.
Sorry, Ms. Bailey, what?
I'm looking for the next policy.
Oh, okay. 7:340 is students. This is regarding student records. Changes to policy include specific references to the types of documents and items that are considered student records, and adding item number 4. What it's done is that it's taken the language out of the paragraph that, the first paragraph that listed all of those documents, and put them into a numbered format, and then added number 4 as well. So the policy itself is completely different
Yep,
than the
that was.
current policy, September 2012. So, not too bad. 340. And, oh, that's 06, okay. So, looking at it,
Yeah, we took action on May 2012 here. Yes, we did. September 2012 approved.
you approve that one.
We don't have a
Mhm.
choice, we have to take whatever they say, right?
Okay. So accept changes on this one.
Okay, adopt the new policy, or the new.
Here you have them.
Mhm.
Yeah, I already got that. Back to that one.
Okay. 2150, administrative policy, administrative procedure. School board, superintendent committees, changes the title of the Illinois School Board, Illinois State Board of Education Violence Intervention Plans. All of these things going forward all of these APs, 4170, 520, 7180, all of these APs going forward are in relation to the State Board of Education's Committee on School Violence and Anti-Bullying. I don't remember what the actual title of the task force was, but they made some changes to comply with the new regulations and their findings in the school anti-bullying and school violence task force. So old procedures had labels of targeted school violence prevention. They had references that have been kind of changed because of this task force's recommendation, and the State Board of Education has accepted those recommendations. So now, when we're talking about school violence prevention and anti-bullying and those kind of policies in throughout here, they've changed the types of examples and the labels, types of threats, those kind of issues. The overarching issue with all of this is the fact that the U.S. Department of Education, Office for Civil Rights, has said that if a school board, a school district does not have these types of policies and steps and procedures in place, then there is the chance or likelihood of facing a legal challenge. All right? If a parent were to bring a challenge to the U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights, and we don't have these types of policies and procedures and steps in here, in the examples, the exhibits, if we don't have those, then the Department of Education has the right to find that we're non-compliant and strip us of all of our federal funding. Now, whether that's fair or not, I don't think so. But that is the overarching issue behind all of these new policies and administrative procedures and exhibits. So we can start at 2:150 AP. All right. They made changes to some grammar. They made some changes adding tobacco prohibition in one portion of the policy, or the procedure, I'm sorry, administrative procedure. Then on page 3 of 3 is where it comes down to the anti-bullying program and school violence prevention teams. So basically it's taking targeted school violence prevention team out and taking out the word targeted and just leaving school violence prevention team. We're supposed to manage the threats of communications, the implementation of all of these policies on safety and school violence prevention programs, preventing bullying, intimidation, and harassment, prevention, identification, investigation, and response to bullying and school violence. All of those policies are being referenced so that the school board is able to show, school district's able to show that when these things come in, threats, when the bullying occurs, when there's complaints of harassment, that the administration has a set of steps that it will go through in whatever particular situation happens, and we have them here for our administration to step through and make sure that they're conducting any kind of investigations, we're conducting any kind of programs that are supposed to be happening, and the school board's laying this out in that kind of a fashion. So
with that, all the rest are dealing with students and bullying and things such as these. So can we kind of cut in on all of these and say, yes, are you in agreement? Did anybody see something they felt needed to be changed for our district?
I don't know if it needs to be changed, I just have a question. So when it says the AP, are we doing this? I mean, like, if, say for instance, in here it has like fill out this form about who bullied who and things like that. Are we doing that?
They have it at Park.
Okay, then what about this with the doctor, communicable and chronic infectious disease review team? We don't even have a school nurse. I mean,
But you can acquire it. I believe it also.
well, I just meant, should we
States.
take that out if we're not gonna be doing it?
Well, if it's necessary, you'll have to acquire
We don't
it.
have a school nurse.
If it's necessary for a nurse though, don't you have to provide something there?
But then we can put in there, the person must,
Where are you at?
the person must, I'm on page, 1 of 3, on 2150. I mean, I don't know if we could change it, but per doctor's recommendation or doctor's orders, and that way we don't have to have the team. I mean,
I see.
it says communicable infectious diseases, the review team monitors those employees and students who have a communicable and chronic infectious disease. And then it says, it tells about it, and then it says, the team members include district medical advisor, a school nurse, a building principal, and a superintendent or designee. Maybe we should just say, must have a doctor's excuse to return back to work, I don't know, or back to school. I mean, you wouldn't get rid of the team, and you would not be liable for having a school nurse and things like that.
But there would be somebody in the medical field that we could
We don't
contact.
employ anyone in the medical
It,
field.
No, but
it also
doesn't
says
mean
the
it
building
has to be.
principal and the superintendent or designee though.
Right.
Team members include the district medical advisor, the school nurse, which we do not have either. So we need to
Advice-
take those out.
In my understanding of that, Mrs. Reagan, an advisor is just somebody you go to when you need their advice on something. And when I've been on other committees, you do sometimes, because of the circumstance, have to pull in advisors that are trained in those areas. So it doesn't mean that we as a district employ these people.
The school nurse is an employee of the school in most districts. And we do not employ a school nurse.
You know, there are a lot of school districts that do not have school
Exactly.
nurses.
That's what I'm saying.
you know.
So why don't we just take it out of here?
Could we just put the word could in there?
Yeah, let's do
Task
that.
force members
Team members could.
could include?
Right.
Yeah.
Could we do
Good
that?
suggestion. Good suggestion.
May include sounds a little better.
Oh,
But
yeah,
do you
may
even want to
include
put in here, I mean,
A nurse instead of a school nurse.
no, I didn't mean that. I just meant, do you want to put per, you might be able to eliminate it all and just
I
put
think,
per
yeah.
doctor's recommendation.
Well, I think the
That
catch-all,
way you don't have to do that.
the catch-all is that in the first paragraph, the end of the second line is appointments are made to the task force only if the superintendent determines that its input is desirable. And, you know, you're right, Mr. Reagan. I don't know of very many school districts that even have,
East Peoria.
of course, everybody around here does.
Yeah, almost everyone around here does. But it's expensive, and a lot of schools are not doing it. But
The schools are not doing it.
Right.
That, you know, the Communicable and Chronic and Infectious Disease Program Task Force, you know, is consistent, assists in the development and review of a chronic and infectious disease program consistent with policy, state, and federal law. So that is, my understanding, is kind of encompassed within our whole emergency plan, the district's emergency plan that we have. And that's where this is covered. I don't know of mean, no, I'm not gonna say it because everybody around here has everything.
Not everyone.
I just,
And one day we
I'm
do.
not sure.
We don't.
Yeah.
Right, it does say we do.
That's what I'm just saying, it says we do, we don't, let's just get rid of her.
Well,
Or
what
him.
if we are able to acquire a St. Francis environment again?
That would be wonderful.
Right, so then,
So if you like to
leaving
leave
it in,
May
and with
include.
May,
Put in
I
May.
think it says,
Okay, are we good with that? Everybody
consensus
good?
okay,
Put
let's
May
go.
in?
Well, I have one more thing. It even talks about the food allergy program.
We do have that.
Okay, we do have
We
food
do have
allergy
food
program,
allergy.
and, which is really good. And then the pandemic planning team,
Again, that's that
That's under
emergency
the-
planning.
okay.
Yeah, there is an emergency planning committee, that's a superintendent committee that meets, and they met in June, maybe?
Yes, I think so.
Was it in
I
June?
think so.
Okay.
I just know because Julie called and told me she was going to it.
Right,
Yes, it was in June.
right,
Yes.
right. So,
I was
so
just-
these things, you know,
How
these
am
things
I
are
missing
happening.
all this?
It's just one board member, or two board members.
well, see, that's
But
what
it
I went
never
to,
comes
these
out.
is information for us to know that we did it.
We did do it.
I was gone
With
with
the,
it.
with the last one, she was brought in, it was
Yeah.
announced in his
It
notes.
was.
So, yeah, we do that, and if we do, we just have overlooked it if we haven't.
Yes.
So having said that, you're done?
Yeah, I just kind of thought it was weird as a pandemic anyway. I'm just
Yeah,
like,
that is on
Pandemic is global, why did they say epidemic?
Be-
pandemic.
These are written by lawyers, not
Yeah.
doctors,
Right.
you know?
I just wondered, I thought pandemic, I mean,
New
Well,
word
that-
for all of
that's
us
like
to learn.
contagion.
That's the word that was used though about 4 or 5 years ago, was the pandemic flu and the bird, Asian bird and all that. All right, so, you know, everybody just jumped on the word of the
I
day.
thought we used to call it the emergency preparedness. That's what
Yes,
Chuck called
yes.
it when
It's the
he
name
asked
of
me to
the
go to
plan.
it. Yeah.
But it's a whole booklet.
It's a booklet.
Right.
Yeah.
And probably, I will write you and request one, but
But that's
We
the
haven't
one
had one
that's the
yet.
one Chuck had me go to when I
That's
first
what
got on the
was
board.
just
Was the
reviewed in June.
emergency-
And
Yeah,
and it
just-
did discuss the pandemic and
Yes.
all that.
You know,
yeah. the emergency
We
preparedness
can
one.
certainly make copies
And you meet
forever.
with the fire department, the police
because the
department.
board used to have a job in there.
Yeah, we did.
Stay out of it.
Stay away.
But we had to go, or two people had to go, or the president.
If there's an emergency.
Oh,
Team
yeah.
members
Board members
include,
will
okay,
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
So is there any
Put the word
other?
may after
Yeah.
team members?
Yep. That's a good suggestion, Mrs. Bailey.
Very good.
How about any of the others?
4170,
Sorry.
AP7, taking out that targeted school violence, you know, it's the labeling issues again, anti-bullying program. This team utilizes its expertise to ensure the district develops violence prevention plans that comprise of both civil rights and other state and federal laws. Determines whether to recommend that the board assess the district's condition for development and learning regarding violence prevention, identification, investigation, response to bullying. This is all going back to that, the task force and their findings. So, it's changing of the labels.
And I am kind of confused.
All right.
I thought that we kind of all agreed that these APs, because of what they were doing, that if there was any questions on them, we could go quickly through them instead of looking at each one.
Oh, okay.
And,
I'm good.
The only one I want to bring to your attention is the one I want to take out. If you go to page 6 of 10 on 4170, AP7,
yes, 6.
the big box, yeah, 6 of 10, 4170, AP7.
6 of 10.
Yep.
7, E3 or,
No, just AP7.
okay, wait for that then.
Consider designating a trained public.
I think it
Is
was,
that where you're
I think
at?
it was just,
Yeah, which one are you at?
Page
I'm
6.
good.
that one there.
Oh,
6
I'm
of
at
10.
step
6 of
First
10,
box.
okay.
Okay. Oh, it doesn't need training.
Yeah, designating a trained public relations and communication manager to inform parents in the community during a crisis and to keep pace with social media information. I guess, in my opinion, that this seems kind of unrealistic in, you know, in this school district to have a trained public relations and communications manager.
That's a hat you put on.
Yeah.
I'm not trained.
Do the best you can.
We'll consider training you. But you are
Went to a
designated.
workshop after the fact.
You are
I
designated.
gotta keep pace with social media, that's the big thing, right?
So you want that, you suggest that's taken out?
I would suggest that's taken out.
Yeah.
Because obviously, when a crisis happens, it is going to be this, the superintendent that's going to be, the front of that. And that was just my only comment on that one.
I think your nods have agreed with that one. On any of the future ones, did you have anything else that?
Nothing
you
other than
needed to consider?
Nothing other than what was already listed in the recommendation.
Okay. You didn't have anything you wanted to take out like that one?
No, that was it.
Is everybody in agreement? These APs?
And all the APs you mean?
We had 3 more pages on them.
I think I'm more than
No, 3 more on his.
On his thing.
We're only doing the first half of the packet now.
no. Is that okay? Should be
We're
on.
doing all the 4s. That's what we're.
No, on page 2, 3, and 4, they're all dealing with almost the same policies.
Doing all the way from 4, 1, 7, 0,
Yes.
7, and all of those, like 7.
Yes, to page 4 of Mr. Aldrich's preview. Are you okay with that?
That's hard to believe, but I am.
Okay. Well,
The remainder of the packet,
Don't want to mess with the bullying.
Right.
yeah, I think.
the
his-
remainder of the packet, Ms. Griner, is I kind of briefly touched on that before, maybe before you got here, was the rest of them are those 5-year reviews. And so what I want to do is to get things put back into a good order so that everybody has the right stuff, everybody has the same things, everybody has the most current and updated policies, and then we can start looking at, systematically going through those things that need to be reviewed and bring these things back up.
Okay, so when are we gonna do that, but not at the next meeting? I mean, you're looking down the road a ways.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, no, I want to get through the adoption of what we already have on the table. And then that's committee of the whole stuff again, is to go through these and, start looking at all of these other things that are in here. Organization of instruction and education of children with disabilities that needs to be reviewed, library media program, all of those kind of 5-year review situations, yeah. So it's my hope to get back into a rotational situation so we're not having to do so much at once.
I want clarification, please, from the board. When this comes on the agenda for a first reading, are we all in agreement that we do a first reading on the policies, that first one, and we approve the administrative procedures, then we're done with them, and the exhibits, right? Okay. Well, there was discussion last meeting, and it was kind of confusing, so I just wanted to make sure I understood.
And we had to make the second additional motion because of that reason.
Right.
So if you get on the agenda that way,
Yes.
So if Julie has an issue with any of them,
She'll contact.
She needs to get it to me, yeah,
okay,
first.
so that, yeah, we can
discussion. We're addressing our public. Is there any participation from the? Thank you. Please stand. In fact, if you want to come closer, Mr. Giddens, so we can.
Randy Giddens, 821 South Creve Coeur Avenue. I was listening during your discussion on the committee and things like that. I just want to toss something out there. There used to be, and many boards still do it, I can't remember, new items or something like that. Old business, new business, I'm sorry. Whenever you called up the superintendent and asked him, you either call the superintendent or the president board and said, I'd like to discuss this, or I'd like to have a vote on something, and that would be automatically go into new business. The president didn't overrule nobody, because all 7 board members, if you look at it in code and everything, you're all equal. And if the board president makes a decision, the board members have a right to appeal. The way you explained it tonight, it sounded like it's not important to me, or we'll discuss that later, and it keeps getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. This school district, the board used to meet full board meetings, regular board meetings twice a month, plus several committee meetings. I know you dropped your head. They probably did some micromanaging, okay? But, I mean, that's what they did. Now, the reason I came tonight was I was surprised when I heard that there was no money in the Parents Club funds. Because as of April of this year, both Parents Club's funds had the money. Last summer, most of you have heard it, the community, the Parents Club, everybody was told that a local CPA was doing an audit. And at the committee meetings and at the board meetings, we're waiting for that CPA to complete that audit. Y'all never did it. 2 weeks from today, your annual financial report is due. However, I may have missed it, I never heard you hire anybody to do your audit yet. I'm asking the board to consider doing that audit this school year that the board had told the public you were doing over those club funds. And I did ask Mr. Aldridge for some of those documents, because what happened to all that money? And I never heard the board make any change in the decisions that they made last summer. So I don't know how, what happened? Your auditor can help, that financial report could help. There is a section in there for auditing I can't remember, there's a checkoff box there. Did you audit the Parents Club? And most of the time this district doesn't check that box because they don't. Well, you told them you were going to do it last summer, and that's the reason why they couldn't continue spending their money. And this went, their terms expired and everything else. Y'all wouldn't let them meet, discuss how they could spend their money. Some of you appealed how they was handling their money, didn't like what they was going to spend it on, rather than going to that group, to their meeting, and professionally addressing it with that committee, that group. Y'all just took over, okay? I don't think that, to me, it wasn't very tactful. And you said there was going to be an audit. I'm asking the board, it may not be important to anybody else in the room, but it might go a long way knowing, what happened to their money. These kids went out there and raised this money. So when a child says, the school board took my money that I went and raised, that doesn't sound very good.
I believe you're FOIA.
I have FOIA'd them. But I'm saying the audit.
Have you received that yet?
I have not, unless you sent an email.
I believe that
Yeah,
will address what you've asked
okay.
for.
But I'm just asking the board to consider that audit when they do. You haven't hired them yet, I don't think. So you're probably going to be asking for an extension, because it's due October 15th?
The audit's complete.
Okay. I never heard the board hire anybody to do it.
Mr. Hinton, who did the audit last year,
They hired him for last year, but they didn't hire him beyond last year. So, okay, thank you.
Don't know about that part. But yes, your FOIA was addressed, and I did email it. It was probably later in the afternoon. So, no, I understand. I'm just saying, you're not being ignored, okay, Mr. Giddens, all right?
Oh, I'm not implying I'm being ignored, I'm just saying, the board kept, I'm sorry, the board kept telling everyone there was an audit. They even named the auditor that was doing it, and we were waiting on that auditor. You didn't use the auditor, and the money's not there. It was there in April. I know it was there in April, because that's from a previous FOIA. So I don't know where the money went between April and our last board meeting. And that's why I FOIA'd it.
Yeah, I believe you'll find that complete, and hopefully it has the justification you're looking for. Thank you for coming tonight and expressing that. Yes, you will, remember?
Well,
Before you make it work.
Just to show it's over, it's done, it's zero balance, whatever.
yeah, no, every month we get a FOIA. I have to give that to the board, the entity board. So, yeah, at
He
the
did
regular
it
business meeting.
Last time, and
Yep.
you can expect
Yep,
it to.
you'll get the request, you'll get all of the documentation that was sent, the whole thing.
You can
stuff
mess with
like
the documentation you play, they got pointed out.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It's supposed to be, but.
Okay,
We
well,
had
thank you.
before, right?
Appreciate it.
Well, I mean, I did that the last
Right.
few times.
And you're being very open about all of
I'm
it.
trying, so. No, ma'am, I have no other further
You
issue.
haven't done
A motion, we need a motion to adjourn.
I make a
please.
motion that we adjourn this meeting at 7:35. Is it 7:35?
33.
Specific, oh, motion to adjourn. Well, adjournment.
I know, don't worry about it.
Okay, you want to have an actual, okay, I can put motion, okay.
She kept me in line.
Does anyone want to?
Roll call, please.
Oh, I didn't hear her. Linda Bailey,
Bye.
Pam Griner, Brenda Cagle, Rebecca Kern, aye. Valerie Reagan.
Aye.
Julie Troop is absent. Judy Strong.
Yes.